Over the last 5 weeks, we've been asking people to get in touch with us through the BBC's Your Voice, Your Vote project to tell us what issues matter to them in the run-up to Thursday's election.
More than 13,000 responded, and our journalists and reporters, both locally and nationally, have been listening to your stories and trying to get answers to your questions. Here's our correspondent, Colletta Smith.
We asked what you wanted to talk about this election.
Food shopping bills gone to the roof, petrol's gone through the roof.
I got in touch because of to highlight the bus service where I live.
And you'd plenty to say.
There is no dentists around here to do NHS, and it's appalling, really.
My message would be to the next Prime Minister, whoever that might be, is to prioritise mental health.
Where we live and how we pay for it has been central.
The subject that really concerns me is housing for our young people.
It was very frustrating and challenging finding the apartment in the first place. The market was incredibly saturated with people looking for the same sort of thing, and the cost aside from that was just remarkable.
And the dream of home ownership is drifting away for many.
I don't want to give up. I really don't, because I really would love to have something of our own.
It just feels like we're fighting a losing battle.
The future of energy and net zero goals have been a hot topic too.
When it comes to backing a huge project like this that can actually get us there, they're not interested.
In Powys in Wales, I heard the concerns about a wind turbine plant and a 60-mile pylon corridor.
My father was brought up just over the hill, so it means a lot to us all.
High levels of immigration.
Ed Thomas has been hitting the streets talking to people about some of the issues you've raised most frequently, like immigration.
They don't respect our country.
Do you stop all immigration?
You can't stop it, and then you'll have an empty hospital.
Mum, do you want a cup of tea?
For others, there's a real concern that their voice won't be heard by those in power.
What are you going to do for the army of unpaid carers in this country?
And that's exactly why Jacqueline got in touch with us. I went to visit her and her daughter Emma in Lisbon, Northern Ireland. Why did you contact us?
Because absolutely nobody is talking about the learning disabled. The politicians in Westminster and in all the devolved assemblies have been weighed in the balance, and they've been found wanting.
While the NHS has been a big focus this election, lots of you have been particularly concerned about dentistry.
Dental plan only, no NHS patients.
And how much would that cost you as a family if you had to do that?
For the four of us, it would be £40 a month, and that's just for one appointment a year.
But the NHS dentist who we did get in to see said, I can't do it, and it's a 2.5-year waiting list on the hospitals through the NHS. So there is no move on that.
And right the way across the UK, we've heard a lot of frustration about the lack of buses.
I got in touch because since 2020, January 2020, we've had no bus service.
I feel like I'm on a desert island. I do, because everything's cut off with nothing.
See ya. We've been putting in the miles this election to make sure your voices are heard.
Well, Colletta joins us now on the sofa. Morning, Colletta.
Good
So
morning.
how many people have been in touch so far?
Well, we're talking more than 13,000 people just within the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we've had a huge number of people getting in touch from right the way across the country. Do you know, the point of this whole idea is when the starting gun is fired for an election, all the parties want our attention. They actually lay out a programme for every day of what they want to talk about every day, and of course where their battle bus is going, what stadium they're speaking at, what manifesto is being launched. And it's easy as the media to just go with the flow with that, and actually you end up kind of dancing to the tune of the politicians. And the point of this was to actually find out what people within our country want to talk about rather than what the politicians want us to talk about. And people really have responded to that.
So what are they wanting to hear? And I guess it varies where you are in the country, doesn't it?
It does. There's been, right the way across those answers, 5 really big key themes: health, the economy, housing, climate change and social care. Right. And that's been true right the way across the UK. But in different areas, there have been different priorities, or, you know, the number one in different areas is different. So when we're talking about London, it's been housing and crime that people have really focused on. Housing has also been top here in the northwest, particularly in Manchester, when you're talking about affordable housing or access to housing generally. In the southeast, climate change has been a real priority. That's true in Scotland as well. Of course, the NHS has been a key priority everywhere. In Northern Ireland, a lot of people complaining that it's the worst performing NHS in the UK. In Wales, that's been a real clamour for people to get access to GPs and dental appointments. So those priorities have shifted right the way across the UK. In the North East, it's been climate change again, but also the cost of living and a particular focus there. A lot of people getting in touch about child poverty. So depending on where you are in the UK, those priorities have shifted.
We saw some really powerful stories there in that film. How do you decide which ones to share?
Well, across the BBC, lots of my colleagues have been dealing with this differently. So local radio have got a lot of those people that have responded into their studios to ask questions of the politicians directly within their debates for the candidates standing in those areas. We've also been answering people's questions directly. My colleagues in the Your Questions Answered section have answered some of those questions that people have been putting to us. But often it's just about finding stories that are different and that are powerful. I mean, you've seen in that video there, a lot of the people that we've spoken to have incredibly powerful stories just about their own lives, the struggles that they are facing. And it's not a political issue per se, but they want to have their say and they want their voice to be heard and make sure they're not forgotten.
And I guess if we have a new government, if on Friday, this is a sort of really useful thing to kind of remind people what the issues are that voters, whether it's an election or not, want to hear about.
Exactly.
Are you going to keep this going?
It's been incredible over the last few weeks just to be able to raise a lot of these issues. But actually, from the end of this week, we'll have somebody to put those questions to, and we're going to keep doing it.
Good. Nice to hear that.
Colletta, thank you very much. Thank you.